Hello and welcome to Sip and Tip. I'm MJ.
And I'm Zane.
And today we are going to talk about
Siblings.
Yes.
Since April 10th was National Siblings Day.
And that's something we know a whole lot about. So this episode will be aired in two parts. Today we are going to talk about biological order. So for us, that takes on different turns because biologically, we belong to two different sibling sets.
And yeah.
Well, actually, I guess more than two sibling sets if you count, mother side, father side, step parent side.
Right.
But yeah, we have a whole dynamic.
Exactly. And me being the oldest, that means we'll go first.
Yes. Have at it.
Look, being the oldest takes both positive and negative turns. However, biologically speaking, I am the oldest child in both mother and father side. And to me, it holds a sense of responsibility, that lead by example type.
Yeah.
And I've always tried to maintain a sense of I don't get in trouble. I mean, that, to me...
That is very true.
Right, but to me, that's what it's always meant. It meant you don't lie, cheat, steal. You've got to show the younger children how to behave. You've got to teach them right from wrong. You've got to be the example.
Yeah. I, birthright, am the baby. Although and so I should be spoiled. I should have tons of examples. And the baby often, gets weighted on hand and foot. And
Gets away with a lot.
I do not get away with a lot. What do I get away with?
Babies tend to get away with a lot.
But
Some of their attitude.
Well, my attitude, yeah.
Growing up, you got away with a lot of that attitude.
Yeah, I did. I had a lot of attitude. I still have a lot of personality. Personality is the word, not attitude.
Yeah, personality.
But my personality had to shape itself. Well, not itself, but it had to be shaped.
Right.
And with a lot of siblings and being the baby, it's harder to shape the younger ones because so many people are influencing that, and so many people are adding in their commentary. So as a baby, I have to figure out what that all means to me and how I want to use it.
Not to mention, you've got a lot of people that want to come in and focus only on the baby.
Yeah.
Oh, she's so cute. Oh, look at her. They do that, and then it takes away from the older kids.
Yeah.
Which, if a parent isn't, aware, it can cause some pretty harmful effects for the older children.
Yeah. And I think for the older, or the oldest, should I say, you're more like a parental figure to the younger ones instead of a sibling. Because you have to uphold the rules. You know the rules. You've been instilled with all of these things that you are now the gatekeeper of, because now you're another older person and the baby's running around.
Exactly. And that's so funny because growing up, it was just me and my sister. And when I say my sister, I mean I grew up with one sister who was by both mother and father. And she and I don't know, we just bumped heads a lot, but we tried.
Siblings.
Yes, exactly. we kept trying, but then you've got everything that comes into play. You've got their friends, you've got cousins, you've got different rules for the younger siblings than you do for the older siblings.
Yeah.
It's a lot going on for any one parent, let alone people who take in kids that aren't theirs.
Right.
So there's a lot with placement.
Yeah. And so for me as a child, or as, growing up, for me being a sibling, it was really just the matter of watching, observing, knowing who, when, how, like what every other sibling is doing. I didn't really know what that really meant for me. I didn't know how that was shaping who I was. And so that all played a part. Now it plays a big part. But as a sibling then, it was, why should I do what you say? You're not my parent.
I remember those days.
And so being the baby, it meant to be unlike you guys, because you're not my parent. Why should I do that? Why should I do that? Everything was a why. I mentioned that before on here. I question it. I still question everything. It's just a little different. But growing up, it was really, being the baby, being who I was. It was, why would you want me to do that? Why? Because you said so? Yeah, right. And so that's what it was to be a sibling then. It's not that, oftentimes, especially because we are mostly girls in our family, it wasn't that I didn't love you guys or like you guys, which often equated because I gave you guys a hard time. But it was just, who was I? And why do I have to live up to everybody's stipulations? And so I was fighting for what I wanted to be, which was free. I just wanted everybody to stop dictating everything that I did, said, wore, everything. Everything was, and I was just like, please leave me alone. Let me be. But that's the role of the baby. You don't have that moment where you're just like, I can go into a corner and just be. Because somebody's always checking for you. Especially when you come from a big family.
I mean, I guess that also comes into play whether you have your mom in your life too.
Right.
Because not having a mom and being a baby and then being placed in another home, it must be hard. I often wonder about that. Perhaps we'll have a different segment where we can bring in some other siblings and find out their opinions. Or you can always say something in the comments for this segment and let us know your placement in your families. Because I would really like to know how you felt growing up and how it played out today. Because even though I was the oldest or am the oldest in different facets, whether it's biological mom, biological dad, being put into different homes changes that dynamic.
Yeah.
But the responsibility never changed. Because in my mind, I'm still the oldest. And I think I really like being the oldest. Maybe it's a control thing.
Possibly. I can agree.
But keep in mind, growing up, my younger sibling, my sister, she really didn't allow me to be the big sister. So I
Personality.
didn't. Right. I mean, she was the baby, but she was bigger, so to speak.
As the baby, let me challenge that a little bit. Was it that she did not allow you to be the big sister, or was she trying to assert her independence?
See, and that's the thing, because I don't know, but in my brain, the only thing that keeps coming to mind is wind beneath my wings. I didn't want to step on her wings. So whenever she wanted to talk over me or be seen, it was okay. Because as the older sibling, you don't crush them. You help them fly. You try. You just do what you can for them. You have to teach them. And in essence, that's what I believed I was doing.
And that is the, for lack of better words, issue with older siblings.
Yeah.
Is you're trying to teach them, but you're a child yourself.
And there's the issue, because if the older people that are supposed to take on that responsibility are gone the majority of the time, the eldest child takes on that aspect, that responsibility. and it weighs on us, and it really has. Over the years, it's made me feel like I failed, but I kept trying, and I keep trying, and therefore I know I haven't failed.
And as the baby, I can honestly say, like, I know the efforts that I've seen. It might not have worked with me. It may not have resonated at the time with me, but I see the efforts. I know the efforts. I'm not oblivious to it.
Right.
And so, in light of being the baby, it's one of those things where, yes, things went wrong as children, because we were children raising children, and we didn't necessarily ask for that life. But oftentimes with families, that's how it goes. And yes, as the baby, we should look up to our older siblings just for the heck of it. But as generations change, especially with my generation, we challenged everything. I challenged everything.
Well, and that's funny because your challenging things helped you become the person you are, which is how I see my biological sister as well, because I was the type of person that you could do something and I would turn the other cheek, and you would do it again and I'd turn the other cheek and walk away. But that's not the person I needed to be. I needed to be stronger, and I didn't have that voice, but she did. So she took on that.
But you didn't have the experience. Because as a parent, you're different.
That's true.
Because you were older. You had experience. And you had life experience. Sibling. So, and it is my belief. Of course, I'm not the oldest of any sibling. But it is my belief that older siblings learn parental items by being the sibling. And so when you go to have children, all of the stuff you learn, that's now lived experience. That's now coming to the forefront. You know where you quote unquote feel you went wrong, or could have done better, or could have done differently, and you present that with your child.
Or the things you wish you had from the adults in your life, you then give that to your child. Because that's what I chose to do.
Correct. And I think that part goes across all children, regardless of birth order.
Right.
Because we always yearn for something. You can give us the world, there's still something that we're going to yearn for, because we're human. And children always think their life is the worst. It's the worst when you're living through it. It's the worst. Because you know why? You see things on TV, or you see other people, and you see this, and even if you have the world, something is always better over there.
Right.
And that's not just a child thing, that's a human thing. But as children, we're always told you get what you get, and you don't get upset.
See, and that's where I got stuck. I get what I get.
But it's okay to get upset. But how you present it, voice it, or what you do with it is the key. And so for me, when I was younger, when I got upset, I got mute and I got hands. It wasn't the right way, but that's the only way that I knew how to make myself seen as a person. It wasn't, oh, you're the baby, oh, you're this, oh, you're this, that everyone else manifested for me.
Right.
This is one way I knew how to voice myself, my opinions, my thoughts. It all came out as anger. Because that was the only time when people were like, oh, I see you. I know exactly what's happening right now. And so at that point, it was learned behavior. Right. The only way to get the attention that I wanted, that really reflected what I was doing and who I was to be angry. Right. Because when I was happy-go-lucky, it's, oh, I want you to do this, and I want you to do that, and you will look so cute, and you would be this, and you would be that. What about me? Where do I come in at? What do I do?
And I think that's why, and it's funny, I came across the letter I wrote you. I came across that letter not too long ago. But when you were in your teens and I wrote that letter, that's pretty much where I was at. Like, what is it that you need? Because obviously, no matter what I do, it's not enough. So please tell me what it is you need. And I think from that point forward, you and I have just been fine.
And again, as children, we don't know what we need. And it'll change on a daily, monthly, weekly, hourly basis.
Yeah, true.
Because we're just grasping at straws. We don't really concretely know what it is that we need to be the person or the things that we would need to get us to the point that we want to be at.
I know.
And our ideas change. Like, how many times did we change our profession as a child? When I grow up, I want to be this, and I want to be that, and I want to be this. We don't know. It all sounds good, but we don't know.
But then, like, when you're the oldest and you're trying to reach, say, the baby sibling, sometimes it's a little difficult if you've got middle children.
Yeah.
The middle children are always that buffer or the agitators.
Because they're overlooked usually.
True enough. So there's a lot.
And for the oldest children, there's this thing that you are the one that gets into trouble often. Mm-hmm. Should that baby get hurt?
Right.
Should the younger siblings not be fed on time?
You're supposed to feed them.
They're having problems getting to the bus. You should have woken them up. You then acquire all of this new and added responsibility without warning, consideration, any of that. And not only do you have to look out for them, you also have to look out for yourself. And and I can speak from the baby point of view, where I would constantly do things and then rebel and be like, you're not my parent. And then when the parent comes home, it's like, well, why didn't you da-da-da-da? And I just sit there like...
And yet, the older sibling would be getting slapped in their mouth if they said, well, she's not my kid.
Right. Right.
That's what she told me.
Right. And so it's an unfair expectation.
It truly is.
And so not only do you have to manage your adolescence and your things and the stuff we already go through as teenagers and young adults and yada yada yada, now you have to figure out this little in my experience or my life, this little brat that is running around
say monstrosity,
telling you can go X, Y, and Z and leave her alone. Like, I know my attitude was not always to be desired, and I know that. I'm very different now, and I've learned a lot now. Definitely. So my understanding of being a sibling then just meant that I was dictated to, and I had to figure out how not to be. Right. By any means necessary. And so that posed a lot of problems within the sibling juncture. Did I know exactly what I was doing? Not wholeheartedly. I just knew there was a means to an end, and I was seen when I was acting out. Right. Now, as an adult, my role as a sibling is completely different. I don't argue with my siblings. If we don't see eye to eye, I'm the first one that's like, all right, that's your way. If you think so, no problem. We'll talk about it later. Or we'll, if it's something we don't have to really talk about and see eye to eye, I just walk away and I leave it alone. Because I know my evolution and who I am. Sometimes, and it depends on the sibling, is not warranted. They do not understand my evolution. They do not understand my growth. They still see this young, rebellious child, and that's not who I am. And if you're stuck there, I can't help you. Amen. I'm not there. Or there's some of my siblings that still sees me as the baby, and they want to do, and I'm like, you're a little late. Like, and it's not necessarily they're late, because some of my siblings actually tried to help me out along the way, but my attitude didn't warrant it. So the other thing about being a baby in a big family is you pick up all these adult idealizations. That's not a word. What's the word? Ideology. Ideology. Thank you. I get tongue-tied. Y'all know this. And so because I had all these adult thoughts, but no understanding or foundation as to why, I just kind of went off on them. And so without the understanding, it left me in places where it was like, oh, well, what do I do now? what do I do now? Like, this is where it got me, but what does that mean? And no one sat me down to say, well, cause and effect. This is this is that. Because everyone's so busy. Everyone's so busy, but I have all these concepts and things that I'm like, oh, well, so-and-so did this and they got that, so I'm going to do this and I'm going to see what I get.
Wow.
But I never knew why. So I had to figure all that out. As the oldest, your foundation was different.
I basically followed the adults. I basically watched my teachers, my aunts. I watched the older siblings. And what I liked, I used. What I didn't like or thought was mean or whatever, I didn't use.
But in their yelling or complaining, and I see it. I say that because I see this with the old. I've seen my older siblings get yelled at. Or, the parents will walk around complaining about things. In that, you learn the why.
Yes.
But as the baby, I didn't get that. Because the children weren't able to yell and complain. So when the adults started yelling and complaining, it didn't resonate with me. Because that was for them, not for me. But nobody was telling me the why. No one was telling me the foundation of why these things was happening. Or if this happened, then that happened. Like, there was no...
See, and because I'm listening to you now, makes me realize that I'm doing the right thing with my son. Because I talk until I am blue in the face about the whys and why you don't and why you should. So, oh my God.
And again, we grew up in an age where talking to your child was not so popular. You talked at them, you told them what to do, when to do, how to do, and that's it.
I always talk to them. Like you see with my daughter. At first it started out with the I'll talk at you, you do as I say, do not as I do, But then as time grew on, I started hearing her. And what she said made sense. I mean, she was only 6 years old when she ever made me pause, like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah. And a child can pretty much put you back on track if you let them. And I'm not saying let a disrespectful child check you, but I am saying listen to your children. They're watching.
And understand that disrespectful children get those traits from somewhere.
True enough.
And I can say this about myself, where a lot of people thought I was rude and disrespectful as a young child, but all I'm doing is imitating the behaviors and the attitudes that I've seen.
True enough.
So if you think it's rude, where did I get it from?
I often think that about my youngest. My son is often doing something and I'm going, you didn't get it from me. So why do you do this?
And so, as the baby, there's always that twist of interpretation. So, you can sit here and slap the table today. And then when we internalize it, it could be, even if what we thought and how many times we replay it in our head, it's not an actual movie. We can't press rewind. It's subjected to our feelings. And so if you slap the table and it startled me and I got scared, my mind will then change that maybe to a punching the table. And it might not be the exact same, but the base reaction is the same. You made me startled, you made me scared. Period.
Right.
So, it might not be exact, and interpretation changes per child, per person in general.
That's true.
It's like the game of telephone. I can say something to you, by the time it gets, it's then changed.
I want to play that game again. I haven't played that game in so long. But I know, I want to say we did it when we were children, and there were between 4 and 6 of us. And by the time it went from the baby to the oldest, it didn't.
It wasn't the same.
Or should I say from the oldest to the baby? Yeah, it was just, I don't hear very well anyway. So you been and told me the moon was blue, and I been and told you said somebody's name was Sue. Who knows?
And that's how the message gets twisted.
But yeah, I mean, there's a big difference sometimes between oldest, and baby, depending
Yeah.
on the age gap as well.
Yes.
Because if it's just a couple of years, then that expectation of the baby to the oldest is kind of blurred,
Yeah.
or really, what's the word I'm looking for? Because you can't expect a
Misconstrued?
2-year-old to be your mama. I'm just saying. So if you've got 2 to 3 years, even 5 years difference between you and your baby or oldest sibling, you can't really be too angry about what you believed their role should be.
Well, and again, this is where emotions come from. Because in a different limelight, they can be. Because you're still older and you should have protected me. To a
get
degree.
that.
Again, not
Not,
grand scheme.
I'm saying not as little. You know what I mean? Like,
Perspective.
if you're 2 years old, you're really gonna stay mad in your 20s because at 2 years old, a grown up gave you a spanking, and that 5-year-old didn't help you, but you're mad at that 5-year-old still in your 20s. I'm just giving you a scenario as a possibility. That's the type of stuff I'm talking about. You can't really be that angry because that's a 5-year-old, and that's a giant person to that 5-year-old, just like it was a giant person to your 2-year-old self. Just saying.
I get that as an adult, but as a child, one, you get stunted because that's a traumatic event.
I hear you.
And two, if you're the smaller stature-wise, all you see is big. You don't necessarily see the tears in that traumatic event.
I get that.
So as an adult, it makes complete sense. Like, come on now.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
As an adult, you should be able to rationalize that, and at an adult age,
Yeah.
let that shit go.
Yeah.
Just saying. Because if you look at it rationally, 5 years, 2 years, that's
But as a child, you should have stopped in the middle.
exactly.
You should have got in
see what I'm
between us. You
saying?
should have helped me out.
Like, yeah, your head should be busted like my head's busted. Like, really?
Like, why you
But
didn't help
anyways.
me? What was I supposed to do?
Like-
I don't know, but you can't help me.
But see, this is the rationale that I have, though. Like, growing up, that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Growing up, I always had to look at the bigger picture that really didn't include me. You know what I mean? Like,
That's
I
because
really
you're the
had
oldest.
to. Exactly. I guess that's it. Because I kid you not when I tell you, I paid attention. I understand that this mom was sick, or this mom had to work, but everybody dumped the children over here, and everybody, you see what I'm saying?
I
And
didn't have to worry about that.
the funny thing is, I didn't even realize just how close in age I was to a lot of my cousins because they all look bigger than me. Like, I thought those were the adults. They weren't.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to see that and to know my views, to know my feelings on how it was to be an older sibling, what they must have gone through.
Right. And you know, everybody's journey is a little different because of the way they personalize stuff, of the personal experiences that they have had, and the family directly that they were born to.
Right.
And so we'll get a little bit more in depth in that in episode 2 of this, in the second part, because definitely your family structure, whether you're born into it or adapted into it, makes a big difference.
Right. And knowing that you're the older sibling, just from my perspective, all the family members was watching, anything that might have went wrong or happened, and
It
you
was
were
your
the
fault.
older cousin or whatever, I don't blame you. I'm
was your
just
fault.
letting
No,
you
true.
know. I don't blame you. I honestly do not and have not, and I understand our family dynamic, and I get it. I get how much pressure you must have had on you, and all you babies that have been spoiled
Okay,
and acting out. Just know that I
Listen.
love you.
we didn't
I
act out.
love
We
you,
were
big
reclaiming our
baby.
independence. Take your independence back. It's yours.
Yes. To my biological, you know I love you, girl. crazy and everything that we've been through, yes, we're good. We're always good. When it comes to family, we are all family. Little ones, older ones, middle ones. We just all have to learn to get along. And
you
your
have to let
placement
people be individuals.
Yes, your placement in the family is not necessarily gauged by where you were born, but who you are in here.
Yeah.
Your family. Done.
So, my question to you, darling.
Yes, yes.
What is the biggest difference between maybe your younger adult self as a sibling, like your ideals as a sibling, and your adult self now as a sibling? Like, what are your key things?
See, when I tell you my younger sibling, my younger days as the oldest, I believed I had to lead by example. I believed that I had to teach. I had to tell you if you were screwing up. I had to tell you if I felt like you were going off the rails. Today, you're going to do you. I honestly, I am so over trying to, I guess, be what everyone else thought I should be. I need to just be me.
That part.
And
Say that again. Say that again. Let me hear it again. Let me hear it again.
Baby, I am going to just be me.
Yes. And that's what I've been fighting for my whole life. Just be me. Just be me. Just let me be.
Because that is all I've ever wanted to do was just be. Can I just be? I am a happy person. I don't need excitement, thrills, and oh, look at me. I don't need none of that. I just want to be.
Yeah.
Oldest, just relaxed, do what I need to do for me and mine, and I'm okay. And when I see you, and if I don't, I don't. But I love you. That's just who I am. I'm not a social butterfly. I've never been that person that had to be in the limelight. So I just wanted to be, just breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really powerful for me.
And it's funny how it comes full circle with the baby. You know, like it's like, you know, all this time you trying to enforce all the stuff that you were taught and learned to. I just want to be me. I just want to be free. Like, let me be.
Let me breathe.
And that's where we started.
Yes.
Like, we just wanted to be great in our own way.
Yeah, but you got too many people in your ear talking about, oh, you shouldn't let that happen. You shouldn't let this person treat you like that. You shouldn't. And then you feel like you got it. I don't have to. Please stop talking, because you probably should have did something different in my younger days.
And
so please stop talking.
It goes back to our younger days. It goes right back to that. And it's one of those things where it's like the family in which you were born, the family values, the family morals, religion sometimes.
Yes.
All of those things play a part. And all of those things are subjected to interpretation, internalization, and then projection.
And the child's perspective if you don't tell it right.
Right. Right. And so that is the epitome of what makes us who we are and how we present. With that, we will close this episode. Next week, there's going to be some twists, some turns. We're going to identify the different roles and places,
families.
Yes, that we've kind of navigated in our life, because we've had
different experiences.
Merged families.
Foster homes, merged families.
Yeah. So stay tuned for some interesting topics. Till next week.
Like, comment, and share.
Peace, love, and happiness.